Hey everybody, welcome. It is the Show Me Reptile Show Podcast. I'm not even sure what episode we are. Episode 6, I think. We've got our normal cast of characters, Scott and Mickey here, and we've got a special guest this week, Chris McDougle from Snakenstein Reptiles. Welcome, Chris.
Hello.
What's up, Chris?
What's up?
We're testing out some new software. This is our first time being able to do remote, so we're happy to now be able to bring in guests from outside the studio, so it's exciting times for that. Coming off of a busy weekend, Mickey, you want to kind of give a recap of what we had rolling last weekend?
Oh, let's see here. Geez, we were all over the place, weren't we?
Yeah.
Millbrook, I forgot that I was even in Wisconsin. We were in Wisconsin, Alabama. All over the place.
And you're coming live to us from your truck this week.
Yeah, I'm live from Springfield, Missouri, down here working on a store.
Yeah, that's an exciting getting ready to open up our fourth brick and mortar location down there in Springfield.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I'm gonna be up late tonight building a really cool aquatic turtle habitat. Super excited about that.
Oh, that's awesome. That store is a lot bigger than it looked when I first saw the empty photo images. Once you started putting some stuff in there, it was able to see the scale. It's a lot larger location than I thought.
Yeah, that usually happens when I take a selfie somewhere. My fat ass makes everything in the background look smaller. So that's what it is.
Well, before we get too far off topic, let's go ahead and dig into it here a little bit with Chris. He was kind enough to join us this week. Tried to roll out last week, but Mickey was sick and lost his voice. It's kind of coming back now. So, Chris, welcome. We just want to kind of, bring in some of our vendors, some of the people that really help support us at the shows, and give them a chance to reach out to the people that we work with and let them get to know you. So you gave me a little bit of background info. I know you started out in reptiles back in the 90s, just as a hobby and a keeper. So kind of let you walk through it. Tell us how you got into to reptiles as pets and how that progressed into where you are now.
Oh man, that was a long time ago. So it would have been like mid 90s, 94, 95, 96. My dad was stationed in Fayetteville, North Carolina, and the house that we had was right up against a river system, and we had tons of just wooded fields and whatnot, and it slowly I just found myself adventuring a little bit further and further in and found salamanders and all kinds of other various bugs and critters and whatnot. And one afternoon I caught a glimpse of, it was probably garter snakes would be my guess. I don't know now looking back at it exactly. And I knew they weren't going to hurt me because they didn't look like anything venomous that my dad had showed me in the North Carolina venomous book. So I was comfortable picking them up and whatnot. And I got hooked because here they are, wild snakes. And I took one home to show my mom, and she didn't flip out, but she was like, "You need to take that back to where you found it." And so when my dad got home from work, he took me back out to the edge of the wooded area, and I released it. And my mom was like, "No snakes, no snakes, no snakes." And I was like, "Well, how about a lizard or a salamander or something?" And she was like, maybe. And so fast forward probably a year or so, we had anoles all over the place in the backyard. And so instead of catching one, I just hung out with them and not played with them, so to speak, but enjoyed interacting with the simplicity of just anoles. And it just completely triggered my excitement the previous time playing with snakes and then getting to play with the lizards. And I just went down a rabbit hole, and anytime I had a chance to go anywhere out in the woods, I was flipping logs over, looking for salamanders, looking for frogs, toads, any other snake, anything I could find. And one summer, You remember those, I forget, the Fisher Price footballs, the big ones that you could put all kinds of stuff in? Yeah, I accidentally left the lid off and it got a ton of rainwater, and then we ended up with tadpoles, and then I ended up with probably 100 frogs. And so I literally had frogs bouncing around the backyard for months and months. And so just watching them and just interacting with them for that summer was just phenomenal. And then we moved to Germany for my dad's next station, and I didn't get reptiles. There just wasn't as much, wasn't anything I could really do. Then we moved to Arizona, and you want to talk about a smorgasbord of critters to go explore and find. And I can't remember ever not just doing the same thing, going out and finding logs, sticks, old wood that was left out in the middle of nowhere and flipping it over and seeing what we could find. And just outside of where the Arizona, I'm drawing a blank on the name now. It's on the east side of Tucson. Why am I absolutely... The Sonoran Desert Museum. Jesus. There's a series of mountain ranges there, and one of them, I don't know if it's this way still today, because this was probably 20-ish, 25 years, 20-ish years ago. But the first time I ever saw a Gila monster in the wild was during the early spring on a monsoon season, and you just see their black noses sticking out of the burrows and stuff as the sun came up in the early morning. And during breeding season, you could just catch them wandering up and down the washes and through the canyons and whatnot. And there was a point in time where you couldn't take a step without stepping on one. And of course, that just fueled my fire more, because you're talking a good solid lizard, not little itty bitty dinky anoles and grass lizards and those kind of things. You're talking a big, solid, beefy lizard. And same thing with chuckwallas and whiptails and all of those things. And Arizona's just filled with all kinds of wildlife. And so I went through this phase where I got my first snake in Arizona, but it took me like 3-4 months. I had to do research papers to turn into my mom and have like discussions with my parents on like the care level, that like what was required, what was needed, how much it was going to take. Like I had to do full, like I was making a presentation on why I should be allowed to have one as a pet. And fast forward, I got my first snake. It was a California king snake. And my parents wanted nothing to do with it. My responsibility, I had to take care of it, yada, 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 yada. And then fast forward about a year or so, I got my second snake, and it was a ball python that had been imported because that was pretty much all you could get then. And I was hooked the minute I helped unload her from the shipment that came in and sorted all of them. Man, if I knew now what I knew back then, I would have just bought like every import shipment. Instead of just the one I bought, I would have bought probably 10 or 15 snakes from every import shipment, because I know for a fact I held yellow bellies. The pet store I worked at the time put what they called a fancy striped ball python. It was a tri-stripe up for sale. Like, I just wish I would have known some of the crap I know today. And not from a financial standpoint, just from those early discoveries of the first super stripe, or when Pied got found, and all of just those first holy crap moments. Anyway, I derailed myself. I'll do that. I got my first ball python, and my parents were scared because for whatever reason you say python, and the first thing that comes to their mind is like anaconda or, massive, huge, enormous snake. And I was like, no, they're like 4 or 5 feet, a little bit heavier bodied. It's not a big animal, I promise you. And over the next year and a half or so of just watching her grow up and this, that, and the other, my parents literally flipped the script and were just completely just blown away with the disposition and the calm handling. There would be points where I'd come home from school and my mom had my snake, and she was just sitting in the kitchen or was cleaning the house or whatever with the snake wrapped around her shoulders, cleaning the house, doing laundry, whatever. And I'm like, how long have you had her out for? She's like, oh, most of the afternoon. Uh-huh. And they got equally hooked. What's that?
Yeah, it's funny
for the kids.
Yeah, It's funny. We asked that question. You say we asked the question a lot of times of how people got into it. The story almost always starts with, "Well, I used to drag this stuff out of the woods into the house," and that's almost how the story starts with every single person.
If you've been
but that's
doing
cool that your parents became in love with it.
Yeah, and it was hard in the beginning to get my dad over it because his mom, she was the only daughter, and she had two or three brothers. And one of the brothers, one summer, they lived in West Virginia. So again, I don't know specifically. I'm just guessing it was probably a garter snake hibernation thing had come awake during the spring, and they grabbed a handful of it, and she was in like a dress type thing and shoved it down her dress as a prank. And so she was just terrified of snakes because her only experience was an extremely negative one. And to loop that in, I think it was my senior year in high school. I had the ball python out. It had just become routine after dinner. My parents wanted to hold her and hang out with her for a little bit after dinner while they're cleaning up the dishes and whatever. And so I'd bring her out just after dinner, and my grandparents were over, and I didn't think anything of it. It was just a routine. And I had her out. My grandmother was like, that's as close as she can get. Just keep her on that side of the table. And I think they were down for like a 2-week stretch, and it was about a week into it. And she was slithering across the table in between the plates and stuff that hadn't been cleared yet and going through the napkin holder. And she slithered over towards my grandma, and my grandma just was kind of just sitting there scooting back. She's like, I might have to get up. I was like, oh, no, it's okay. I'll redirect her. So I shifted her, and she started slithering the other way. And as she was slithering, my grandmother was like, wow, that's really cool. Look at how the muscles are moving. And she touched her. And she completely froze. She was like, I don't remember him feeling like that. And then she did it again, but intentionally. And she did it again. She never held her, but she got to the point where she was comfortable touching it. And I was like, I'll take that as a win all day. And she was like, it's easier when they're not forced on you. And so that's always stuck with me as a learning lesson for people that are scared of snakes. Introduce them, but don't force. Like, you can kind of force the introduction, so to speak, but don't force the interaction part. Have them see the natural, calm demeanor of the animal. Let them get curious. Let their curiosity override that fear that might have been improperly placed in their brain. And then all of a sudden they go from, I don't want it anywhere near me, to where they get closer because they want to see something. They want to understand something. And then you just get that moment where the snake will just do something like, oh, there's a person getting closer, and they naturally just try to move to the next tree branch, and that person puts their hand out, and the snake just rests their head on their hand. They're like, the connection's made. This is not a mean animal. This isn't the scary thing that I thought it was. And then they just stand there for a good few minutes, dumbfounded on what they're doing. And then they're like, can I hold it? Is the next question. Almost always, so long as you're not forcing the situation. Yeah. And I've just, that piece is what's always made every expo having little kids, because little kids don't have fear. They only know what they're told. They're not afraid of anything. They'll go run into a freaking crowded parking lot without thinking about getting hit because they have no reason to be afraid. They only know what their parents tell them. So you get them when they have that no fear stage, and you put an animal in their hands that is not going to hurt them. There's no way. All they have is that positive interaction. They're hooked for life. They may not bug mom and dad for a pet now, but that bugging's going to come. Like, Mom, remember that time I held that lizard at that zoo or at that expo or here or there or whatever? Or remember that time we were playing with that snake or whatever? And that sheer joy and excitement hits them. And the parents are like, yeah, I remember. I have all the regrets now because I don't want a snake in my house.
Yeah, there's so many times you see it at the shows where the kid is just stoked to hold it, wants to hold every single snake at the table, and then they'll
Yep.
turn around and be like, "Mom, do you want to hold it?" No, mom's
And
backing
at the
away.
next show, you see the parents there buying more snakes, and you see them at every
Exactly.
show buying more and more
Exactly.
snakes.
Yep.
It really gets the
Exactly.
whole family into it.
Like you
Once you
said,
Every
break
it's
that
time.
fear,
if you like you
they're
said,
in.
yeah, like you said, you let them go from where they were at their own pace to get comfortable
Yep.
with it, and all of a sudden they
Yep.
realize, oh, this isn't anything I need to be scared of. This can't hurt me. This isn't a big gnarly animal from my nightmare.
Exactly.
No, yeah, and sadly, it's just perception. People believe what they see, and until they see something differently, there's nothing that's going to override that. And that's always the beauty of the expos, is just being able to put animals in front of people that once upon a time might have felt a little eerie, a little concerned, whatever that may be. Whereas, like, for me, my longest running joke on myself is I'm going to die petting something I know I shouldn't. I'm not afraid. I want to handle or attempt to handle or work with any animal I have the opportunity to.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, go ahead, eat me. I'll die happy.
So what clicked in your mind, or what took you from the stage of, you got that first ball python as an import? How did you transition? And I assume, it's kind of at that point in time, like Pokemon, you got to start collecting them. But where did the switch flip that you decided you wanted to breed?
So, man, it's crazy, because I probably there's not a right or wrong way for sure, but it's to each their own. And I graduated high school. I moved out with all of my critters. I was a huge lizard guy. I only had 4 snakes, I think, when I moved out after I graduated. But I had like 20 some odd lizards. I was just a huge, and most of them were variations of geckos. I had a blue-tongued skink. I had a Savannah monitor. I had African fat tails and leopard geckos, and I had a handful of day geckos and giant Madagascars. I had some frogs too. So I mean, it was a mixture of everything, because I just loved it all. I still do. That hasn't changed. It's worse now than it was then. And I kept all of those, and I was more of a collector. And I'm not saying it maliciously, but as things passed away from long lives, I started to get more focused on just keeping snakes. I still have leopard geckos to this day. I probably always will. I just enjoy those goofballs. They're fun and derpy. I have crested geckos too, for the exact same reason. They're just fun and derpy to hang out with for little intervals. But I switched gears. I moved out, and I was in Tucson. I went to one of the pet shops, and I mean, we're talking early 2000s, so kingsnake.com's prime, if you will, in terms of options to buy anything online from, and you would get a Polaroid picture at best, or you were ordering off of somebody's mail order list, and there was no pictures. It was just the genetics and male or female. Oh, how times have changed.
Ask Bob Clark to send you 20 pictures of a snake on the mail list.
No,
because the response you would have gotten back nobody would have liked that.
No, but one of the pet stores up there, and they buy animals from me periodically too, because they like to support smaller breeders. So they rotate through a handful of us, and I'll send them what I have, and they'll pick and choose, and so on and so forth. And so I needed feeders, so that was the pet store I found that could fill my feeder orders, and just made it really easy. And I hated, because you would walk right past the reptile wall to go get your feeders. And every time I would walk by, I'd be like, oh, that's really cool. And it would take me an hour to pick up feeders. And yeah, it was kind of a Pokemon situation. I was in huge collector mode. I just got things that visually, were eye appealing, and I just really enjoyed. And I turned around one day and I don't remember the exact number. I want to say I was probably in the mid to upper 30s for just ball pythons.
Those are
And
rookie
it
numbers.
was one of those situations of it went from I had 1 to I had 3 to I jumped to 12. And then it was like pretty much just adding every time I either went to the store or went to an expo. I'd be like, oh, I don't have this one, or wow, look at that one, and then it was one day I was walking through the Tucson Reptile Expo, and I don't remember the name of the breeder. I have a feeling I know who it was, but I can't remember for sure, so I don't want to say that's the case. And he had just some really crazy combos that I hadn't even seen listed on King Snake. I hadn't seen at the pet shops. And so I got into a conversation with him, and him just being a cool dude, I guess, just for lack of, I don't remember his name. He's like, oh, if you want to see any of them, just let me know. And I was like, yeah, I'd like to see a couple of them. And he, of course, the couple I wanted to see weren't for sale, which was nice because it saved me. But at the same time, it made it worse because the only way I could achieve those was by breeding. And so it sent me on this massive, terrible deep dive of scrolling through World of Ball Pythons and pulling up every single listed gene. And I literally just learned through, like I would go through pastel, all the combos that were listed for pastel. Then I would do the same with spider. I would do the same with every listed gene. And it consumed me to the point where every time I walked in the pet store, I was asking about this gene, that gene, this gene. That. And they got to the point where they're like, can you just come at like 8 o'clock at night when we're slow? Because we know you're going to be here for like an hour and a half. There was nights where they were counting down the cash drawer and I was still rambling my mouth, bless their hearts, on I'm going to make this, I'm going to produce this. I have all these ideas. I was like, if you guys see one of these for sale, either get it or let me know. And I want to, and it just, I wouldn't say it spiraled out of control, but it really fueled. And it still to this day is that way. Like I'll see something, I just get absolutely like, I have to have that. Like I've seen other ones similar to it, but I have to have that one. The look of that one, that's the one I want to have in my collection. That's the one, even if I never breed it, like I'll open that, I'll look at that snake every time I'm cleaning, every time I'm doing whatever, and I'll be completely satisfied. I have some animals in here I haven't bred probably in 10 years. I still enjoy the way they look physically. Like they're more than just a breeding piece. Sometimes they were pets once upon a time, so I'll treat them all like pets to this day. Some of them just breed for me and make me more. I'm my own worst customer.
Yeah, it's funny. I wanted one ball python as a pet. I work with Kenyan sand boas and blue tongue skinks was my primary two things. I'm like, I'm gonna get one ball python. They make a cool pet. So I purposely bought a desert genetic striped female. I'm like, okay, it can't breed. Like I can't even be tempted to try to pair it. Yet now I have like 100. It's like I have a partner in the reptiles who like, oh, you got a ball python? I'm gonna send you a couple of mine that I have that I don't have space for anymore. Can you just keep them there? And before I knew it, he kept sending others, and then I added some, and then now we have 30 pairs. So
yep.
Let's stay away from ball pythons.
I swear it's the species. Like, yeah, I know that they're all the same, and it's just the paint job. But their dispositions do transfer. I've got a lineage that is nasty as shit, and I always remind myself that, oh yeah, and it's oddly because I name all of mine. So great granddad's name is Lucifer. Go figure. And all of his kids are, well, the one, she's evil as crap. She tagged me when I went to pull her out of the incubation tub the day she hatched and drew blood. Like she tagged me to go away. Like she was like, I don't care. I only weigh 60 grams. You're going to regret doing this. And I was like, she hit and latched. I was like, well, I know what I'm doing when you unlatch. I'm going to situate you. I'm going to feed you. And she ate before her first shed.
wow.
And to this day, I go to open her tub and she will hiss and strike at me. Genetics are more than skin deep. I believe that firmly, just with his children being that way. There's one, her sister, she'll hiss the entire time I'm holding her. She won't strike. She'll just hiss the entire time. she's going to tell you she's not happy with what you're doing.
Yeah.
Like, I haven't done anything to you, but okay.
Well, I mean, the thing is, there's no denying with ball pythons. I mean, there's so many cool morphs, and there's so many things that there's so many out there that even with all the people in the world breeding them, there's combos we haven't seen yet, and every year something new is going to pop up. You know, something that you just haven't seen before, some variation is going to show up. So there's still an excitement with a lot of species. You know, there are what there are. There's these 8 morphs, and you can combine them, and you can get this and that, and
that's the end of it.
That's it. You know, it's finite. With the ball pythons, we also know that there's stuff that's going to continue to be imported that we don't even know exists yet.
Yep.
And it's funny.
I mean, and to go ahead.
No, I was going to say it's funny how sometimes a gene that's been around for a long time garnered no excitement, and then all of a sudden somebody finds the combo that really blows it up, and then look at what Clown. It's like Clown just re-excited everybody for 5 years about ball pythons. Now Desert Ghost, who knew Desert Ghost has been around for a while and it's pretty, but some of the combos now are just unbelievable.
Well, another good example is Red Stripe. I mean, there was a point in time that people couldn't give it away.
Yeah.
And then all it took was Justin unlocking and unleashing its potential, and you couldn't find them for a solid year. You couldn't find even just a single gene Red Stripe because everybody was hoarding it. And the other piece to it, too, is to go back to there's so much that we still haven't seen. There was so much that was skipped. I mean, Justin himself left the project wide open when he discovered that chocolate and spot nose were allelic. How many combos have we not seen with just chocolate and spot nose because you didn't know? And in order to get those combos, both parents have to have it on each side. So there's so many things that we're going to continue to learn. And granted, we're going to learn it at a faster rate now than we would have even just 5 years ago. But there's still complexes we're missing. I know there is.
Yeah.
I believe it in my bones that there's complexes we just don't even see yet.
Yeah, 5 years ago, I don't think anybody thought anything was going anywhere with Tri-Stripe, and then you put that with Desert Ghost, and that is a insane animal.
Yep. Well,
and then all of a sudden, I saw Tri-Stripes for sale for like $5,000 and $6,000.
Yep. And a lot of the older genes just didn't have their time frame, and it's to nobody's fault. I'm not picking on the older breeders by any means. They only had the avenues available at the time, and it was hard to market something new without inviting hundreds of people through your facility. And well, that's not a wise idea, especially if it is something that people are going to want. Then you're going to just be opening yourself up for a multitude of disasters. Yeah. So it was hard to get traction for some of the people. I mean, there's projects that are sitting probably still to this day that people just wish they could ignite and get some interest behind.
So what are a few of like the key projects? Like what lines are you working with that have you most excited, or things that you've been most profitable with or most excited about where you're going with? I know it's hard to pick favorites.
It's a dirty question. No, it's not that. Well, it is that. So.
Well, maybe
beauty is always going to be in the eye of the beholder.
Well, maybe we can make it easier then. Like, pick a few pairings out that you have going for this year that you're most excited to see bear out.
Okay, yeah. So I haven't talked a lot about this pairing outside of just a few of my other breeder friends, and it's not because I don't want somebody to beat me to it. That's irrelevant. I'm not going to be the first to anything. That's not what I do it for. I do it because I want to do it. But one that I'm most excited to see come to life is a mahogany vanilla cream clown with or without yellow belly. I have a feeling that mahogany might be strong enough to actually put some additional pattern influence on what it does to a cream clown. So I'm hoping this year, I had a shot for last year, but it was all 3 girls' first years, and my clown group decided they didn't want to do anything for me last year. So, the way it goes, then they control it. But so yeah, I'll be doing, it'll be mahogany vanilla het clown to a fire yellow belly clown, and then same male to a cream het clown times 2. I have 2 of them, and then a vanilla or fire het clown. So I could take a shot at possibly doing some super vanilla mahogany clown stuff too.
It's interesting because I think a lot of people, you see the mahogany clown and you think of other dark combinations. So that's kind of a cool twist on it.
Yeah, I wanted, so for me, vanilla's always held a soft spot in my heart, and it was hard for me to isolate it because I started with a cream, stupidly, but it was hard for me to isolate it. And then I found a mahogany vanilla from a really, really good guy, and he sent me pictures, and we had conversation and this, that, and the other. And I was confident because it came from a super vanilla. He showed me the pictures. I was like, okay, cool. I don't have any worry. It definitely has vanilla. I'm not going to end up with white snakes. Sweet. And then another one, but it's more of like just a project starting piece, is going to be my Inchy Asphalt Desert Ghost to my Yellow Belly Pied. I really want some freeway double hets. Yeah. So I can rig the deck in my favor. Because I just picked up actually I got her at the Odessa Expo a couple weekends ago. I got a super Inchy Firefly Pied female. So she will also see the same male, which will then keep the asphalt part clean. So then I'll have asphalt double hets that'll be Inchy asphalt double hets, possibly super Inchy asphalt double hets, which is where I'm hoping I'll be able to get my male from to take to any of the freeway double het females that I get to build off of, for the hope to make a freeway or even a Mardi Gras Desert Ghost Pied. Just sounds fun to me.
It's funny. I have
that's a long project.
My genetic knowledge is so limited that you do this, and I have to start picturing each snake in my head individually, and then I'd have to do the math like a little third grader up here. I'm like, carry the 3, but that's awesome.
Divide by 7.
Yeah.
So
I would say those are.
Yeah, Scott just checked out.
I would say those are probably my top 4. I could probably pull a couple others in there, but the weird thing for me, because usually by this time of year, I've got a list of all of my well, I have a list of all of my pairings, but I usually have a list of what I expect to have come to fruition. But this season has just been extremely late. Usually I'm hatching stuff by this time of year. I don't even have an egg on the ground yet. My girls just started in the last month and a half. So I'm just going to have a very, very late season. Patience. This is not a quick race. This is a marathon, and it sometimes can take you a decade to even see a glimpse at the finish line.
Yeah. So do you work with any?
And I
do
think
you
that's
work with anything else? Are you working with anything else besides ball pythons?
Currently,
is that?
Yeah, I've got over 300. They keep me plenty busy.
Yeah, that'll do it. Do you keep other things still just as pets, or are you really?
I could breed. I have two leopard gecko pairs that I could breed if for some reason I ever, if I actually didn't have a season happen this year, I could just go play with my leopard geckos. But my crested geckos are both male, so they're just pets. I do have a Burmese python.
Probably enough geckos out there.
Oh yeah, no, yeah. I do have a Burmese python. She is old enough to breed, but I don't have a male for her. So, but she was only ever bought to just be a pet. So, yeah, it's more of that's for my enjoyment.
Yeah. So I don't know. I guess Mickey just disappeared. He either went back in to go shopping or lost his phone or something. But he hasn't popped back up on here since.
Yeah, it showed a reconnecting and then a disconnected. So I'm thinking he dropped and got lost in La La Land.
Yeah, he hasn't popped back up in the waiting room yet. So I don't know if I guess his phone may have died.
That's possible.
So as far as our shows go, I know you do the Odessa show. Is that the only Show Me show that you're making it out to so far?
So far, yeah, and a lot of that's just date conflicts with other existing shows that I'm already signed up for. So that's a lie. I did the El Paso show as well last year, but I haven't seen a scheduled date. I think there's a place issue with that one.
Yeah, I think they were looking for a new venue.
El Paso yet.
Yeah.
We are looking at a couple other locations in Texas too, so kind of hunting for venues right now in a couple different cities. So hopefully we'll be expanding down that direction.
The thing that makes it hard is Texas is too damn big. So like I can do like 8-9 hours one way safely, but anything further than that, it requires me to take off additional time from work, which then makes it to where I can do less shows a year. So it's one of those I have to pick my battles, and I try to keep. I did Corpus Christi last year, and that's about the maximum I want to drive one way overnight because that just makes for a very, very, very long day.
That is the problem with Texas, is you can go 8 hours and still be in Texas.
You can go 8 hours and still be in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah.
And being
still
on the
for a city.
armpit of Texas doesn't help.
Yeah, so like I said, hopefully we've got a couple more locations that we're working on. We're looking at, something in the outskirts of the Dallas area. Obviously we don't want to. There's no need to go smack into the middle of Dallas. There's enough going on there. We like some of the markets where people can't easily get to that aren't already saturated. So like us going into Odessa has turned into a really good little show. In an area where it was just being neglected. They just people can't jump in their car and take a 6-hour trip for one day at a reptile show. But we got them a little closer to home, and that's turned into a great show.
I can speak for myself and several other local vendors is that we absolutely love the Odessa show from both the location standpoint, the size, but the best thing is the amount of people that show has continued to bring in is, do I see a lot of my regular customers when we're at the Odessa show? Absolutely. But at the same time, the amount of new people that I see at each show just means that we're growing it, and it's a startup. We have to start somewhere and just make sure that we're handling all of the people correctly. And that's my biggest hope at the end of every show is that we didn't make the customers feel like all we wanted to do was sell them something. It's like, no, come in and check this out. Just come see this. Come hold your first snake. Come hold your first lizard. Just come experience. And it's a big enough event hall, but at the same time, it's small enough to where it doesn't feel like you're going to get overwhelmed. It doesn't feel like you turn around and there's 100 people behind you.
Yeah, and the beautiful thing,
you're fostering community.
Yeah, exactly. The beautiful thing about some of those shows being in that medium to smaller size is you really can feel like you actually get to know some people and you get to know the vendors that are around you. When you go to something like a Tinley, you're just smashed in there with 10,000 other people, almost pushed down the aisle. You don't have time to stop and chat with somebody. You probably don't leave your booth and explore what else is there. So that's something that's beautiful about these the shows that are a little bit smaller or medium size is you build the sense of community a lot more than, like you said, that it's a giant snake sale.
Yep. And from as I almost always leading up to the show, I always pass out flyers or remind everybody that comes and picks up feeders from me because I know that they would be interested in going. And then after the show, I always brace myself because of the amount of uptick in people now looking for feeders. And making sure that I don't answer them short or make it sound standoffish, like where it's like, I really don't want your business. No, I want your business. That's what I want the most, is I want to make sure that you know that that animal you bought, you're going to be able to care for without it being a headache. And so it's like I always have to remind myself after the show that I'm going to get bombarded with an influx of new customers that have never ordered. They don't know what they're needing to order, and more or less help walk them through, like, yes, you need to get this or you need to get that, or help them with just the simplicity, even just the right feeder. Like, no, you can't feed that to that type of animal. You need to feed it this way. And so, and the part that makes Odessa so much more special to me is that a majority of the vendors either send the customers to me or to a fellow guy in Midland. We've divided the cities in half. He takes the Midland group. I take the Odessa group. When he's at a show, I cover Midland. When I'm at a show and he's not, he covers Odessa. We take care of, like, it's not about the revenue for us. It's about making sure the customers that purchased an animal know that they can get feeders weekly without issue.
Yeah.
Because both the Petcos and PetSmarts out here suck. They'll order whatever they order, and when they're out, and they run out every week, and they won't up their order. Their goal is to run out. They don't want to have any when the next order comes in. Because I've asked them so many times, like, can you please just up your order another 50, 100, 150? They're like, nope, we're only allotted whatever the number is per location. And that just blows my mind, because I know that they're selling stuff that they should be providing feeders for. You have to increase what I have Petco or PetSmart customers that literally send their feeder customers to me. They're like, don't buy from us, go to this guy. He's cheaper anyway. And I always know when it is, because, hey, this lady at Petco sent me to you. Can you help me out? Yeah, I got you.
I worked at Petco back in the day. I said people
every once in a while,
other
hindsight's
breeders and stuff
2020.
all the time.
Yeah, and I appreciate it. And
yeah, you hear nightmare stores all the time. You know, you can walk into Petco almost every time and find, guaranteed, you're going to find something not in the right setup, not cared for right, doesn't look healthy.
Or see an animal that you know for a fact doesn't eat bugs with crickets in there.
I've told this story before. We had somebody in one of our groups online for sand boas that got a free sand boa from PetSmart, and the lady told them that they were letting somebody have it for free because they can't get it to eat goldfish. They've tried all they can. I'm like, well, why in the world would a desert snake be eating a goldfish? I don't know.
Oh,
like it's best that you give that away.
And that's the part that's the hardest to combat, is just the amount of incorrect information for any species.
But it's just really not that hard to look it up.
No. But it's because they think it's a pet store, that the recommendation and advice they're providing is what they need to go by. And maybe they probably get it right for a desert species most of the time. But anything else, they're wrong on so many levels.
Yeah, and part of the problem we have now, too, is just the tribalism in the communities. Because we got so many people that they're afraid to ask questions because you get chewed apart online.
Yeah. It is sad when you see the responses online. Yes, somebody, before you buy a snake or before you buy a lizard, you should research and understand the basics. But if you didn't get everything right and you don't know everything, and you come into a room and you ask for help, and people just literally chew you a new one because you didn't already know, that a heat rock was bad for this particular snake to have, and then they'll never ask for help again. Now they don't want to go in there and seek the right information because they're afraid they're going to be made fun of.
Once bitten, twice shy.
Yep.
Yeah, and that's the part, because I'll get people, because I'm local here, and I'm sure Travis gets people over in Midland that will ask them questions on the species, a different species that we don't even breed or work with or anything. And it's like, I don't have knowledge of everything, but for the most part, I'll do a walk around Saturday morning just to see what all's there so I can know what to expect, possible questions to arise in the future. Like perfect example was young guy bought some venomous stuff and he was worried on how to feed it. And I was like, you're going to buy this, you're going to put it in there, and the snake's going to handle the rest. That's it. Don't have to do anything else. This isn't like a dog or a cat. You don't have to watch. He's going to bite it, let it go. The rodent's going to run off and die. He'll find it, he'll eat, and then you won't see either one for a few days. But I didn't give him a hard time. I spent probably 35, 40 minutes with him when he came to pick up feeders, just walking him through what to expect for his first time feeding. He bought some rattlesnakes and a couple other things I can't remember, some vipers, tree vipers or something. So I was just trying to help him with what he didn't have and make him feel good, because he did have a grip. He understood what needed to be done. He was just wanting to make sure that he didn't put himself in a position to either get bit or something happen, and B, to make sure that he wasn't going to mess the process up. And I was like, you can't really mess it up. Like, the snake's going to take care of that one way or another. So fast forward, about 2-3 hours goes by, and I get a message from him. He's like, dude, that was the coolest thing in the world. He's like, next time I feed, I'm spacing it out by about 20 minutes each. Because he fed them all at the same time. He just went through and fed everything. And then he came back like after he got done about 10, 15 minutes later, and the first snake had already bit it, and the rodent had gone off and died, and the snake was slithering around looking for it. He's like, I missed half of it. He's like, I'm spacing it out next time. I'm going to watch the first one. I'm like, there you go, dude. Enjoy. Have fun with them. He's like, dude, this is the coolest thing. So just being able to keep them positive and not feel like they did something. I mean, he sounds like he did the research on the venomous part. So I wasn't going to ask him a million questions on that to make him unsure of himself. He felt confident in his decisions. So I'm not going to be like, it's not my place to tell you shouldn't have bought a venomous. If you feel comfortable with it, then do it. I will not have one in my house. There's a handful. I would love to own a Gaboon Viper, but no, I don't trust that something couldn't accidentally happen. And the last thing I want to do is have a Gaboon Viper slithering around my house.
Yeah, I'm the same way. There's some of the venomous stuff that's just beautiful, but I have made stupid mistakes before and allowed a snake to escape in my house, and like that can't be something that can kill me or my family. You know, if it's a sand boa, it's okay. We're all right.
So the other night I was in here cleaning, and my son came in to ask me a question, and I had a snake. I have a holding tub that I put him in while I'm cleaning, and so I put the lid on. It's not a full latching lid, or it's just a Sterilite tub with a clicky lid. Like, you can push up on the inside and it'll pop open. And so he asked me a question. I was like, oh yeah, we went out to the living room and we were doing this, that, and the other. 10, 15 minutes passes by and I come back in and I about die laughing. Tubs flipped over, lids popped off, snake's halfway across the table, halfway in the trash can. I'm like, any other situation, this would be terrifying. But thank God they can't go anywhere in here. They get out, they're stuck in here. There's nowhere for them to go. They can either get underneath another rack or something, or they can hide in a corner and I have to roll a rack out to get to them. Outside of that, they can't hide anywhere. Or they could fall in the trash can and I could miss them that way for a minute. But I told him, I was like, now just wait a minute. Because he went to go grab her. I was like, no, don't grab her. She's going to come back up and pop you in the arm. And he'd already started to reach down. And he went for her tail. You want to see a ball python move quick? Startle the crap out of him. Because it made him jump because she smashed her tail back in and her head comes back up out of the trash can. And he was like, holy crap. I'm like, I was trying to tell you don't do that. She just fell out of a tub into a trash can. But yeah, I've had a couple where back when I had tanks still, I had one, her name was Houdini. She ended up inside the washing machine between the drum and the washing machine frame. Yep. It happens even when you're trying to do your best to keep track of all of them, make sure everything's closed or locked or secured or what have you. And all it takes is that 1/16 of an inch for them to squeeze that nose into and start pushing. They'll open it.
It happens. I remember, Scott, didn't you have you had a gecko that was loose for like a month, didn't you?
Well, when I introduced my male tokay with all my females, he figured out the sliding glass. So opened it up, so I had 5 tokays loose in my reptile room. So they're all back now, but it took to get the male. The male was the last one. It took 6 months before I got him. He's got back in the wall.
Well, at least it was insect control.
Yeah. Are your tokays mean?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
I've had 3 or 4 over the years growing up, and yeah. Okay. I always get grumpy when I see somebody that has a tokay, and theirs isn't evil. I'm like, oh well, this is no fun. You can have it back because they're more fun evil. Like that personality just makes the tokay gecko.
Yeah, I've got 1 baby from them so far, and I've worked with that one, so that one's not horrible. It's not great, but it's not horrible. Yeah.
Yeah.
It only bites you about half the time.
It's progress.
Yeah.
Well, I'm guessing Mickey's not going to join us back here, and I don't want to keep you too long and run us over an hour, but we just wanted to say thanks so much, Chris. We really do appreciate you joining us. We'd be happy to have you on again in the future sometime if you're welcome or if you're open to it. And I don't know, Scott, I guess we can give our normal podcast plug that we need more coordinators. we are expanding, so we're looking for people that are 21 plus, good clean driving record, responsible, obviously reptile lovers. You don't have to be the most expert reptile keeper in the world, but at least have a little bit of familiarity and be willing to travel, love people, and love reptiles. So
and love giving up your weekends to reptile shows.
yeah. Please keep in mind it's not a 9-to-5 job. We don't have reptile expos then. So it is a Saturday, Sunday. A lot of times there's a lot of driving involved in it, but
yeah,
it's
sometimes
a lot of
Thursday,
fun.
Friday, Monday.
Yeah, and it's decent pay for a fairly laid back, fun weekend. The shows end at 3:30, and so a lot of times you have your evening free and hanging out with other people that love reptiles. So bit of a party at times, but a lot of responsibility and a lot of fun going with it.
Yep.
So if you are interested, reach out to Scott. You can find him, either on Facebook, or you can email us at the show page or at the office. So we will go ahead and end it on that note. But Chris, thank you so much. Scott, thanks for joining. Mickey, good luck wherever you are. Hope there's no tornadoes down there in Springfield or that have gotten you. So guys, thanks a lot. I hope you guys have a great week, and we'll talk to you soon. See you guys on the next episode.
Thank you.
Have a good night.
Night.